Jake Martinez loved the Crystal Caves. The 10-year-old boy knew every tunnel and every shining wall in the underground network near his family's farm. The caves stretched for miles beneath New Eden Colony, filled with beautiful blue and purple crystals that grew like frozen lightning in the rock dot today. Jake crawled through his favorite tunnel with his best friend, Katie Brooks. Katie was 8 years old and loved adventure just as much as Jake did. Her father was Commander Ryan Brooks, the man in charge of keeping the colony safe. Her mother, Dr. Amy Brooks, took care of sick people at the medical center. "Look at this one," Katie whispered, pointing at a crystal formation that looked like a frozen waterfall. The crystal caught the light from their flashlights and threw rainbow colors on the cave walls. Jake smiled and pulled out his tablet to take a picture. His parents, Carlos and Linda Martinez, always wanted to see what he found in the caves. They ran one of the biggest farms on New Eden, growing food in huge glass buildings filled with water instead of soil. The food they grew fed people on 3 different worlds. New Eden was a peaceful place. 50,000 humans lived there, working on farms and in mines and research centers. The planet had purple grass and 2 small suns that painted the sky orange every morning. Most people had come here 15 years ago to build a new life far from the crowded worlds of human space. The children went to school in a big building near the center of town. They learned about Earth and the other human colonies, but they also learned about the hundreds of alien races that lived among the stars. Jake's favorite subject was galactic history. He loved hearing about the great wars and the peace treaties that kept different species from fighting. The most important law in the galaxy was simple: no one could hurt the children of another species. This law had existed for 2,000 years, ever since a terrible war that almost destroyed everything. Every alien race followed this law because they knew what happened when it was broken. Jake and Katie climbed out of the caves as the orange suns began to set. They walked through the town center, past the shops and restaurants where families were eating dinner. The evening air smelled like the purple flowers that grew everywhere on New Eden. Commander Brooks was waiting for them at the medical center. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been a soldier in the wars between humans and pirates, but now he just wanted to protect his family and friends on New Eden. "Did you two find any new caves today?" he asked as he hugged Katie. "Jake found one that goes really deep," Katie said. "We think it might connect to the old mining tunnels." Jake nodded. His father had shown him some of the mining tunnels last month. Deep underground, the miners had built emergency systems in case something went wrong. There were food supplies and communication equipment hidden in the rock, just in case the colony ever needed help. Commander Brooks smiled. "Just be careful down there, and always tell your parents where you're going." The 3 of them walked home as the first stars appeared in the sky. New Eden's small moon was rising, casting silver light on the purple grass. It was a beautiful, peaceful evening, but far away, in the cold halls of a warship, alien leaders were making plans that would change everything. The Zilani Empire controlled dozens of worlds across the galaxy. The Zilani were tall, strong creatures that looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. They had sharp teeth and claws, and they believed that strength was the most important thing in the universe. Ambassador Vex Korath was the Zilani representative to the Galactic Council. He was angry because the Council had just voted against his proposal to take some of the worlds that humans had settled. 3 other alien races had sided with the humans, and now the Zilani couldn't expand their empire the way they wanted. Traveled back to the Zilani homeworld to meet with Emperor Thax Grimscale. The Emperor was ancient and proud, with scars from 100 battles covering his scaled skin. He sat on a throne made from the bones of his enemies and listened as Kor explained what had happened. "The humans think they can stand against us," the Emperor said, his voice like grinding stone. "They are weak creatures who have only been in space for a few decades. They need to learn their place in the galaxy." General Corvée Bloodclaw, the Emperor's top military leader, stepped forward. "We could attack one of their small colonies," he suggested. "A quick strike to show them that they cannot oppose the Zilani Empire." Emperor Grimscale thought about this. A full war with humanity might bring other species into the conflict, but a small attack on a weak colony would send a clear message. The humans would learn to fear the Zilani, and other species would see what happened to those who opposed the Empire. Choose a target, the Emperor commanded. Make sure it is isolated and poorly defended, and make sure their young ones see what happens when their parents are weak. Let the human children remember this lesson for the rest of their lives. General Bloodclaw smiled, showing his razor-sharp teeth. New Eden colony would be perfect. My Emperor, 50,000 humans, far from their main fleets. They have farms and mines, but almost no weapons. Then New Eden will fall, Emperor Grimscale declared, and the galaxy will see that the Zilani Empire is not to be challenged. The orders went out that same night. 3 Zilani battlecruisers would travel to New Eden and teach the humans a lesson they would never forget. The ships were powerful, enough to destroy the colony completely, but that was not the plan. The Zilani wanted the humans to surrender and feel helpless. Back on New Eden, Jake Martinez was falling asleep in his bed, dreaming about crystal caves and rainbow light. Katie Brooks was listening to her father, read her a story about brave explorers who traveled to distant stars. Commander Brooks was checking the colony's defenses, but he expected nothing more dangerous than pirates or smugglers. None of them knew that war was coming to their peaceful world. The crystal caves that Jake loved so much would soon become the key to survival. The emergency systems that his father had shown him would become humanity's cry for help, and the peaceful colony of New Eden would become the place where the galaxy learned a terrible truth about humans. They had chosen to be peaceful, but they had never chosen to be weak. The attack came without warning. Jake Martinez was eating breakfast with his parents when the emergency alarms began to scream across New Eden colony. Through the windows of their home, they could see 3 enormous ships dropping from the sky. Like falling mountains, the ships were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They were dark gray and covered with weapon ports that glowed red in the morning light. Each ship was longer than the entire town center and twice as tall as the tallest building on New Eden. Zilani battlecruisers, Carlos Martinez whispered, his face pale with fear. He grabbed his son's hand. We need to get to the emergency shelters. But before they could move, the attack began. Bright beams of energy lanced down from the ships and struck the spaceport. The building that housed their connection to the stars exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the purple sky. Pieces of metal and concrete rained down across the colony. Commander Brooks was already at his command post when the second wave of attacks hit. The communication towers that let New Eden talk to other worlds were destroyed in seconds. The power plants that provided electricity to the homes and farms exploded one by one. The water treatment facilities that kept the colony alive were reduced to smoking ruins. But the alien ships were careful. They did not hit the residential areas where families lived. They did not destroy the school or the medical center. They wanted the humans alive and afraid. A voice boomed across the colony from speakers on the alien ships. The voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Humans of New Eden, the voice said. You have taken worlds that belong to the Zilani Empire. You have voted against us in your weak council. Now you will learn the price of defying us. Jake pressed close to his father as the voice continued. I am General Corvée Bloodclaw of the Zilani Imperial Fleet. Surrender now, and your offspring will be safely relocated to human space. Resist us, and they will share your fate. Commander Brooks stared at his instruments in horror. The nearest human fleet was 6 days away. The Council peacekeepers were 2 weeks away. His small garrison had weapons designed to fight pirates, not a full military invasion. He thought about his daughter Katie and all the other children on New Eden. He thought about Jake Martinez and the hundreds of other young people who had never seen war or violence. The Zilani were threatening to hurt children, which violated the most sacred law in the galaxy. But knowing the law was broken didn't help when enemy ships filled the sky. Sir, his communications officer said, they're jamming all our signals. We can't call for help. Commander Brooks closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his life. Attention all colony defense forces, he said into his radio. Stand down. Do not fire on the Zilani ships. We surrender. The Zilani troops came. down in small ships that looked like flying daggers. They were tall creatures, taller than any human, with thick scales and sharp claws. They carried energy weapons that hummed with deadly power. Their eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake's eyes. The Zilani soldiers moved through the colony quickly and efficiently. They separated the adults from the children, claiming it was for processing purposes. All 847 children on New Eden were herded into the school gymnasium under heavy guard. Jake found himself sitting on the floor next to Katie Brooks and two older kids named Ben Foster and Lisa Chang. The gymnasium was crowded and hot, and some of the younger children were crying. The Zilani guards stood at every door, their weapons ready. "Where are our parents?" Katie whispered. Before Jake could answer, they heard shouting from outside. Through the gymnasium windows, they could see Dr. Amy Brooks arguing with a soldier. She was trying to reach an injured child who had been hurt during the attack, but the soldier would not let her pass. "That child needs medical attention," Dr. Brooks said firmly. "I'm a doctor. Let me help." The Zilani soldier looked down at the small human woman with contempt. Without warning, he struck her with the back of his clawed hand. Dr. Brooks fell to the ground, blood running from a cut on her face. Katie screamed and tried to run to her mother, but another soldier blocked her path. The soldier raised his weapon and pointed it at the 8-year-old girl. "Silence, human whelp," the soldier growled. Commander Brooks, who was being held with the other adults nearby, saw his daughter in danger. He broke free from his guards and tackled the soldier who was threatening Katie. The two crashed to the ground in a tangle of arms and claws. The fight was brief and brutal. Commander Brooks was a trained soldier, but he was no match for a Zilani warrior. The alien beat him savagely while his daughter watched in terror. When it was over, Commander Brooks lay on the ground, barely conscious and bleeding from dozens of cuts, but he had saved his daughter. The soldier who had threatened Katie was embarrassed and angry, but he did not raise his weapon again. As the Zilani dragged Commander Brooks away, he whispered to Jake Martinez, who was close enough to hear, "Remember this day, son. Remember who we really are." Jake did not understand what Commander Brooks meant, but he would never forget those words. General Bloodclaw watched the scene from his command ship with satisfaction. The humans had surrendered without a real fight, just as he had predicted. Their leaders were beaten and their children were prisoners. It was time to send a message to the rest of the galaxy. "Broadcast on all frequencies," he ordered his communications officer. "The humans of New Eden have been taught humility. They thought they could stand against the might of the Zilani Empire, but they were wrong. Let this be a lesson to all weak species who think they can oppose us." The message went out across the galaxy, carried by the same communication networks that spread news and trade information between the stars. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders received the transmission and discussed what it meant. Some were horrified that the Zilani had threatened children, even as a bargaining tactic. The Universal Protection Accords were clear. The young of all species were to be protected at all costs. But others saw the attack as a demonstration of Zilani's strength and wondered if they should reconsider their own relationships with humanity. But Jake Martinez was not thinking about galactic politics or military strategy. He was thinking about the emergency systems that his father had shown him in the crystal caves. During the attack, he had remembered something important. The mining tunnels beneath the colony were connected to an emergency communication system that was separate from the main colony network. If he could reach the cave, he might be able to call for help. That night, as the Zilani guards changed shifts, Jake slipped away from the gymnasium. The colony was dark except for the searchlights from the alien ships. Jake knew every street and every building, and he moved like a shadow through the purple grass. Katie Brooks saw him leaving and made a quick decision. She followed him, along with Ben Foster and Lisa Chang. If Jake had a plan to help them, they wanted to be part of it. The four children made their way to the crystal caves as quietly as they could. Behind them, the Zilani ships hung in the sky like dark stars, waiting for dawn and whatever horrors it might bring. Jake led his friends through the tunnels to the deepest part of the cave system. There, hidden behind a wall of blue crystal, was an emergency communication panel that his father had shown him months ago. This connects to something called the Terra Network, Jake whispered as he entered his father's access codes. Dad said it was just for mining emergencies, but maybe it can reach someone who can help us. The panel came to life with a soft blue glow. Jake pressed the emergency activation button and spoke into the microphone. This is Jake Martinez on New Eden Colony. We need help. The Zalani Empire attacked us. They have all the adults, and they're threatening to hurt the children. Please, someone help us. The message went out into space, racing through communication relays toward its destination. Jake did not know that he had just activated something much more powerful than a mining emergency system. He had activated humanity's most closely guarded secret, the Terra Network, a military communication system that connected Earth directly to every human colony in the galaxy. And the message he had sent contained 3 words that would change everything. Human children under attack. The message from Jake Martinez traveled through space faster than light, racing through the Terra Network toward Earth. The emergency beacon he had activated was not connected to the local communication system that the Zalani had destroyed. It was part of something much older and much more powerful. On Earth, in the underground command center of Planetary Defense Command, alarms began to sound. Fleet Admiral Patricia Stone was reviewing routine reports when her aide burst into the room. Admiral, the young officer said, his face pale with shock. We have a Protocol 7 activation. Admiral Stone dropped her papers and stood up quickly. Protocol 7 was the most serious emergency code in the human military. It had not been used since humanity joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago. It meant only one thing. Human children were under direct attack by alien forces. Where? Admiral Stone demanded. New Eden Colony, ma'am. The message came through the emergency network. It's from a child named Jake Martinez. He says the Zalani Empire attacked the colony and is threatening to kill the children. Admiral Stone felt ice form in her stomach. She had been a soldier for 30 years and had seen many battles, but this was different. This was exactly what Protocol 7 was designed for. Activate the Emergency Response Council immediately. She ordered, send Code 7 alerts to every human fleet in known space. And get me everything we have on New Eden Colony and the Zalani Empire. Within 6 hours, every human military commander in the galaxy received the same message. Captain Dan Hayes of the exploration vessel CSS Pioneer was mapping star systems near the Outer Rim when the alert came through. Captain Laura Bennett of the heavy cruiser CSS Intrepid was escorting a trade convoy when her communications officer brought her the news. The message was simple but terrifying. Protocol 7 active. New Eden Colony. All available units converge. Rules of engagement. Absolute. Captain Hayes knew what those words meant. His ship was 5 days away from New Eden, but he immediately changed course and pushed his engines to maximum speed. He also began broadcasting on all galactic frequencies. This is Captain Dan Hayes of the Terran Colonial Service. His message said, any forces attacking New Eden Colony are in violation of universal protection. Accords Article 1. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Similar messages went out from dozens of human ships across the galaxy. But the humans were not just sending warnings. They were also sending something else, a demonstration of their true military strength. For 50 years, humanity had been careful to appear peaceful and non-threatening to the other species in the galaxy. They had built their colonies far from major trade routes. They had kept their military fleets small and defensive. They had been polite and diplomatic in all their dealings with alien governments. But Protocol 7 changed everything. It stripped away all pretense and revealed what humanity had really been building during their 5 decades in space. Hidden bases throughout human space began to activate. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels suddenly revealed military-grade weapons and armor. Colonies that seemed to have small defensive forces suddenly showed that every adult human was trained for combat. The Galactic Council received humanity's formal complaint 12 hours after the attack began. Council President Yalara Moonwhisper, a tall, elegant being with blue skin and large, dark eyes, called for an emergency session in the Great Chamber on the neutral world of Consensus Prime. Ambassador Vex Koroth represented what remained of the Zilani diplomatic mission. Most of their ships and personnel were now committed to the attack on New Eden. Koroth stood before the council and dismissed the human charges with a wave of his clawed hand. The Zilani Empire has acted within acceptable parameters. He declared, "This is a territorial dispute, nothing more. The humans are overreacting to a simple military action." But other species were not convinced. The Mentari archive keepers, ancient beings who looked like living trees and who maintained all galactic law, spoke with their deep, rumbling voices. The threat to harm offspring of another species violates the spirit of Article 1, they said. Even if the young ones are not actually harmed, using them as leverage crosses a sacred line. The silicon-based Christian collective agreed, their harmonic voices ringing through the chamber like singing crystal. The protection of young beings is the foundation of civilized society. The Zilani have committed a grave offense, but what none of the alien species realized was that humanity had spent 50 years being very, very careful not to show what they were truly capable of. Humans had learned early that their aggressive instincts and military abilities frightened other species, so they had hidden their true nature behind diplomacy and peaceful intentions. Protocol 7 removed all those restrictions. It activated every human ship, every human base, and every human citizen for one purpose: protect human children at any cost. Admiral Stone stood in the command center of Earth's most secure military facility, watching as reports flooded in from across human space. The mobilization was happening faster than she had ever imagined possible. "Admiral," her intelligence officer reported, "we have 2,847 ships responding to the Protocol 7 activation. That includes 400 vessels that the Galactic Council doesn't know exist." Admiral Stone nodded grimly. "What about production facilities? Every human colony is switching to military production. We'll have weapons, ammunition, and supplies flowing within 48 hours. The civilian population is fully cooperating." This was what the galaxy had never seen. Humanity united in defense of their children. Every parent, every grandparent, every adult human who had ever loved a child was now committed to one goal. The Zilani Empire had awakened something that had been sleeping for 50 years. On New Eden, Jake Martinez and his friends returned to the gymnasium before dawn. The Zilani gods had not noticed they were gone, but Jake could see that some of the younger children were getting sick from fear and poor conditions. As the orange suns rose over the purple grass of New Eden, Jake heard something that made his heart leap with hope. A voice was broadcasting on the colony's emergency frequency, strong and clear and unmistakably human. "This is Captain Dan Hayes of the CSS Pioneer. I am currently 72 hours out from New Eden. To the children listening to this broadcast, I want you to know that help is coming. To the Zilani forces on New Eden, you have 24 hours to release all human civilians and withdraw from the system." Jake grabbed Katie's hand and squeezed it tight. Someone had heard his message. Someone was coming to help them. But General Bloodclaw was not impressed by one human ship. He opened a channel to the approaching vessel and laughed at Captain Hayes. "Demands. You are one ship against 3 battle cruisers. Human," Bloodclaw said. "Turn around and flee, or we will add your wreckage to the lesson we are teaching your species." Captain Hayes' response was calm but cold. "General Bloodclaw, I am not here to negotiate. I am here to give you one chance to surrender before my fleet arrives. You have violated the most sacred law in the galaxy. You have threatened human children. There will be consequences. Your fleet!" Bloodclaw laughed again. "What fleet? Our intelligence shows no major human forces in this sector." "Then your intelligence is about to be corrected," Captain Hayes replied. What happened next shocked every species in the galaxy. The CSS Pioneer, which galactic records showed as a simple exploration vessel, suddenly revealed its true nature. When the Zilani fighters attacked, the Pioneer's defensive systems came alive like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Point defense lasers tracked and destroyed. Incoming missiles with impossible accuracy. Energy shields that should not have existed on a civilian ship absorbed direct hits from Zilani plasma cannons. And when the Pioneer fired back, Its main railgun punched through a battle cruiser's armor like it was made of paper. But Captain Hayes did not destroy the Zilani ships. Instead, he systematically disabled their weapons, engines, and life support systems. Then he broadcast again on all frequencies. General Bloodclaw, you now have 23 hours and 43 minutes to release the human civilians. I suggest you use that time wisely. The message was received not just on New Eden, but across the galaxy. Every species that monitored galactic communications heard a human ship defeat 3 Zilani battle cruisers in less than 10 minutes on the Zilani homeworld. Emperor Grimscale received reports that filled him with confusion and growing fear. Human ships were appearing throughout Zilani space, but they were not attacking civilian targets. Instead, they were systematically destroying every Zilani military installation they could find. The humans were broadcasting the same message everywhere. The Zilani Empire has violated the Universal Protection Accords. Surrender your military forces and face council judgment, or face total destruction. How many ships do the humans have? The Emperor demanded. We don't know, my lord, his intelligence minister replied, fear clear in his voice. Our account keeps growing. They seem to have been hiding most of their fleet. The truth was even worse than the Emperor imagined. Humanity had not been hiding their fleet. They had been building it in secret for 50 years, preparing for exactly this situation. Every human colony, every human outpost, every human civilian ship could be converted to military use within hours. Admiral Patricia Stone stood on the bridge of the CSS Vengeance, watching the blue glow of hyperspace outside the massive windows. The dreadnought was a kilometer long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. For 50 years, it had been hidden in a secret base beyond the edge of human space. Today, it led the Fifth Fleet toward New Eden. Behind the Vengeance came 200 ships of every size and type. Heavy cruisers bristling with weapons, fast destroyers designed for quick strikes, and support vessels carrying medical teams and supplies. Every ship in the fleet had one mission: bring the children of New Eden home safely. Admiral Stone received constant updates from the bridge crew. Admiral Captain Hayes reports that the Zilani have moved their ground forces to defensive positions around the colony. They're using the human civilians as shields. Admiral Stone's jaw tightened. The Zilani were making this personal. What about their fleet strength? 3 battle cruisers in orbit, but their systems are heavily damaged from Captain Hayes' attack. Our intelligence suggests they have about 5,000 troops on the ground against 50,000 human civilians and 800 children, Admiral Stone said quietly. They think that makes them safe. Her communications officer looked up from his station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. Protocol 7 has been activated across all human space. Every available ship is moving towards Zilani territory. Admiral Stone nodded. This was no longer just about New Eden. The Zilani Empire had made the mistake of threatening human children, and now they would face the full response of humanity. But her first priority was the colony and the young people trapped there. On New Eden, Jake Martinez watched through the gymnasium windows as more Zilani ships landed near the colony. The aliens were bringing in more troops and heavy weapons, preparing for a siege. Some of the younger children were crying, and even the older kids like Ben Foster and Lisa Chang looked scared. Katie Brooks sat next to Jake, holding his hand tightly. Her father, Commander Brooks, had been beaten badly during the first day of the attack, and her mother, Dr. Amy Brooks, was being held in a separate building. Katie had not seen her parents since the Zilani soldiers separated the families. Do you think Captain Hayes will really come for us? Katie whispered. Jake squeezed her hand. He promised he would, and he beat their ships yesterday. I think the humans are stronger than the Zilani thought. Outside the gymnasium, General Bloodclaw was having the same realization. His intelligence reports from across Zilani space were getting worse by the hour. Human ships were appearing everywhere, destroying military bases and capturing Zilani fleets with impossible ease. How many ships do they have? He demanded from his communications officer. We've counted over 3,000 so far, General, and more keep appearing. Bloodclaw stared at the reports in disbelief. 3,000 ships was more than the entire Zilani Imperial Navy. Where had the humans been hiding such a massive fleet? The answer came in a transmission from Emperor Grimscale. on the Zilani homeworld. The Emperor's voice was tight with fear and anger. General Bloodclaw, the humans have been deceiving us all along. They are not a weak species. They have been hiding their true strength for decades. Our border fleets are being destroyed faster than we can count them. What are your orders, my Emperor? Bloodclaw asked. Hold your position. Use the human civilians as shields. If the humans want their people back, they will have to negotiate with us. We still have the advantage as long as we control their young ones. But Emperor Grimscale was wrong. He did not understand humans at all. Admiral Stone's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Eden system. The sight that greeted them was exactly what Captain Hayes had reported. 3 damaged Zilani battlecruisers in orbit around the planet, with the CSS Pioneer keeping watch over them like a guard dog. Captain Hayes, this is Admiral Stone. She broadcast to the lone exploration vessel. Status report. Captain Hayes' voice came back immediately. Admiral, the Zilani have approximately 5,000 troops on the ground, holding all human civilians as prisoners. The children are being kept in the school gymnasium. General Bloodclaw has refused all demands to release them. Admiral Stone studied the tactical displays showing the colony layout. The Zilani had positioned their forces well, surrounding the areas where civilians were held. A direct assault would put innocent lives at risk. But Admiral Stone had not become the senior admiral in the human fleet by following conventional tactics. Open a channel to the colony. She ordered all frequencies. When the channel was ready, Admiral Stone spoke in a voice that carried across the entire system. Children of New Eden, this is Admiral Patricia Stone of the Terran Fifth Fleet. We are here to bring you home. Jake Martinez, I understand you're the young man who called for help. You did very well, son. In the gymnasium, Jake felt tears of relief run down his face as he heard the Admiral's voice. Around him, the other children began to smile for the first time in days. Admiral Stone continued her broadcast. General Bloodclaw of the Zilani Empire, you have violated the Universal Protection Accords by threatening the children of another species. You have 1 hour to release all human civilians and surrender your forces. After that, I will demonstrate why the galaxy never sees human children cry. General Bloodclaw's response came quickly. Admiral Stone, I have 5,000 soldiers surrounding your precious humans. Any attack on my forces will result in civilian casualties. Your children will be the first to die. The general thought he had the advantage. He thought the humans would negotiate rather than risk harm to their young ones. He had made the same mistake that every enemy of humanity had made throughout history. He had forgotten that humans do not abandon their children, ever. Admiral Stone's response was broadcast across the entire galaxy. General Bloodclaw, you have just declared war on humanity's future. Let me explain something that your intelligence services clearly missed. For 50 years, we have chosen to be peaceful members of the galactic community. We have been polite, diplomatic, and cooperative. She paused, and her voice became as cold as the space between stars. But we never chose to be weak, and anyone who threatens our children learns the difference. What happened next became known across the galaxy as the New Eden demonstration. It was not a battle. It was not even a war. It was a lesson in what humans were truly capable of when their children were in danger. The attack began with precision strikes from orbit. Human ships used weapons that most alien species had never seen before. Kinetic bombardments that could punch through a mountain struck Zilani positions with surgical accuracy. Energy beams that could cut through battle armor like paper eliminated enemy. Strong points without damaging nearby buildings. But the orbital strikes were just the beginning. Admiral Stone had brought more than ships to New Eden. She had brought the full power of human military technology, including weapons that had been kept secret from the Galactic Council. Stealth fighters appeared in the skies over the colony, moving so fast and quiet that the Zilani sensors could not track them. Special Forces soldiers seemed to materialize out of thin air, using personal cloaking devices and advanced combat suits that made them nearly invisible. The Zilani forces, who had thought they were holding an impregnable position, found themselves under attack from every direction at once. Their heavy weapons were destroyed before they could fire. Their communication systems were jammed. Their commanders were captured or eliminated within the first 10 minutes. General Bloodclaw tried to reach his soldiers to order them to harm the human prisoners, but his communications were blocked. Human electronic warfare specialists had taken control of every Zilani system on the planet. In the gymnasium, Jake Martinez and his friends heard the sounds of battle getting closer, but they were not afraid. They could hear human voices over the Zilani communication systems, coordinating the rescue operation. Charlie Team, secure the medical center and locate Dr. Brooks. Delta Team, Commander Brooks is in Detention Facility 3. Get him medical attention. All teams, the children are in the gymnasium. Exercise extreme caution. The door to the gymnasium opened, and the Zilani guards who had been watching the children turned to face the entrance. But instead of human soldiers, they saw what looked like ghosts made of light and shadow. The human special forces soldiers moved with inhuman speed and precision. Their cloaking devices made them difficult to see, and their weapons fired silent energy beams that stunned rather than killed. In less than 30 seconds, every Zilani guard in the gymnasium was unconscious on the floor. One of the soldiers removed his helmet, revealing a kind face and gray hair. "My name is Colonel Ryan Martinez," he said to the children. "I'm Jake's uncle. We're here to take you home." Jake stared in amazement at his father's brother, whom he had never met but had heard about in family stories. Colonel Martinez was a career military officer who had been serving in the secret defense fleets. "Uncle Ryan," Jake whispered. Colonel Martinez smiled and knelt down next to his nephew. "Hello, Jake. Your parents are very proud of you. You did exactly the right thing by calling for help." Around the gymnasium, other soldiers were checking on the children and calling for medical teams. The rescue of New Eden's children was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched in amazement as human forces liberated the colony in less than 2 hours without harming a single civilian. But what shocked the galactic community even more was what happened next. Admiral Patricia Stone did not stop with saving New Eden. Her fleet, along with hundreds of other human ships across the galaxy, began a systematic campaign against every Zilani military installation in known space. It was not a war of conquest or revenge. It was something far more precise and terrifying. The humans dismantled the Zilani Empire, piece by piece. Military bases that had stood for centuries were reduced to scrap metal in minutes. Fleets that had terrorized entire sectors were captured or destroyed before they could even fire their weapons. The Zilani war machine, built over 800 years, was eliminated in 6 hours. But the most shocking thing was how carefully the humans conducted their campaign. Zilani civilians were protected and evacuated from danger zones. Zilani children were given medical care and safe shelter. The message was clear. Humanity's anger was reserved only for those who threatened the innocent. Jake Martinez stood with his family on the observation deck of Admiral Stone's flagship, watching as the last Zilani military ship in the system was captured. His parents, Carlos and Linda Martinez, had not stopped hugging him since the rescue. Katie Brooks was there, too, along with her parents, Commander Brooks and Dr. Amy Brooks. "Is it over?" Katie asked, looking up at Admiral Stone. The Admiral knelt down so she was at eye level with the 8-year-old girl. "The fighting is over, sweetheart. You're safe now. All of you are safe." But Admiral Stone knew that the real work was just beginning. The Galactic Council was demanding explanations for humanity's hidden military strength. Other species were frightened by the demonstration of human power. And the Zilani Empire, though defeated, still had to be dealt with according to galactic law. 3 days after the liberation of New Eden, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session on Consensus Prime. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all wanting to understand what had happened. Council President Yil Moonwhisper called the session to order with her gentle but firm telepathic voice. "We are here to address the events at New Eden Colony and the subsequent military actions taken by the human government." Ambassador Vex Korath, representing what remained of Zilani civilization, stood to face the council. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by fear and desperation. "Honorable council members, the humans have destroyed our entire military. They have violated the rules of proportional response. We demand justice." A murmur went through the chamber. Many species were indeed concerned about humanity's overwhelming show of force. The humans had revealed military capabilities that far exceeded anything in the galactic database. But the Mentori archive keepers, ancient guardians of galactic law, spoke with their deep, rumbling voices. The Zilani Empire violated Article 1 of the Universal Protection Accords. They threatened to harm the offspring of another species. This is the most serious crime in galactic law. The silicon-based Christian collective agreed with harmonic tones that rang through the chamber. The protection of young beings is the foundation of civilized society. Any species that threatens children forfeits the right to claim protection under the same laws they violated. Admiral Stone entered the chamber wearing her formal dress uniform, accompanied by a small diplomatic team. She had asked Jake Martinez and Katie Brooks to come with her, along with several other children from New Eden. She wanted the council to see exactly who the Zilani had threatened. Honorable council members, Admiral Stone said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I am Admiral Patricia Stone of the Terran Defense Force. I am here to address the charges against humanity and to propose changes to galactic law. She gestured to the children standing beside her. These young people are the reason my fleet's mobilized. Jake Martinez, age 10, who had the courage to call for help when adults failed. Katie Brooks, age 8, who watched her parents beaten for trying to protect her. They represent 847 human children who were threatened with death by Zilani forces. The chamber fell silent as council members looked at the children. Jake stood straight and tall, holding Katie's hand. He was not afraid of the alien beings staring at him. He had learned that there were good aliens and bad aliens, just like there were good humans and bad humans. Admiral Stone continued, for 50 years, humanity has been a peaceful member of this council. We have followed all laws and treaties. We have contributed to galactic trade and scientific advancement. We have tried to be good neighbors to all species. She paused, looking directly at Ambassador Korath. But we have also been preparing for the day when someone would threaten our children, because we learned long ago that peace is only possible when those who would harm the innocent know there will be consequences. Council President Moonwhisper spoke carefully. Admiral Stone, the Council is concerned about humanity's hidden military capabilities. You have demonstrated power far beyond what was reported in your admission documentation. Admiral Stone nodded. We have been deliberately modest about our capabilities. President Moon, we learned early that other species find human military strength intimidating, so we chose to hide our true capabilities and focus on peaceful activities. Until now, she added, her voice growing cold, the Zilani Empire reminded us why we built those hidden fleets. They showed us what happens when evil beings think humans are weak. She turned to address the entire council. I propose an amendment to the Universal Protection Accords. Article 1 currently prohibits the deliberate harm of young beings. I propose expanding this to include threatening, using as leverage, or deliberately traumatizing the offspring of any species. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species supported the proposal, while others worried about giving humans too much power. Admiral Stone raised her hand for silence. I also propose that humanity be designated as the primary enforcement arm for violations of the expanded Article 1, not because we want this responsibility, but because we have proven we are willing to carry it. Ambassador Korath stood up quickly. The Council cannot give one species such power. The humans would become the galaxy's police force. Admiral Stone looked at the Zilani ambassador with contempt. Your species just tried to murder children too. Make a political point. Ambassador, you have no standing to question anyone's fitness for protecting the innocent. She turned back to the Council. If the Council refuses this proposal, humanity will withdraw from galactic civilization and enforce our own version of child protection. We tried being part of your community. The Zilani Empire tried to make our children orphans. They learned that humans keep their promises. All of them. Council President Moonwhisper felt the telepathic tension in the chamber. Many species were frightened by humanity's demonstration of power, but they were also impressed by the restraint humans had shown. The Zilani military was destroyed, but Zilani civilians were unharmed. That level of precision took incredible discipline. The Council will vote, President Moonwhisper announced, all in favor of expanding Article 1 as proposed by the humans. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Species after species voted to expand the protection of young beings and to accept humanity as the enforcers of that protection. The new law became known throughout the galaxy as the Martinez Doctrine, named after the 10-year-old boy who had called for help when evil threatened the innocent. It stated simply, the children of all species are sacred. Those who threaten them face humanity's judgment. Years later, Jake Martinez became Captain Jake Martinez of the CSS Guardian, one of many ships in humanity's child protection fleet. He patrolled the galaxy's edge, looking for species that might threaten the innocent. But mostly, his presence was enough. The galaxy had learned the lesson of New Eden. Katie Brooks became Dr. Katie Brooks, following in her mother's footsteps as a healer. She worked with refugee children from across the galaxy, helping young beings who had been traumatized by war and violence. Her medical stations were protected by human warships, ensuring that no child would ever again suffer what she had suffered, Commander. Ryan Brooks retired from military service and became the colonial administrator of New Eden. The colony prospered and grew, becoming a symbol of human resilience and determination. Children from dozens of species came to study there, learning about the day when humanity said no more to those who would harm the innocent. The crystal caves where Jake had made his desperate call for help became a monument to the courage of young people everywhere. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see the place where a 10-year-old boy had changed the course of history with 3 simple words: please help us. Admiral Patricia Stone became the first director of Galactic Child Protection Services, commanding fleets dedicated to a single mission: ensure that no child of any species ever suffers alone. Her headquarters were on New Eden, in a building that overlooked the purple grass where Jake Martinez used to play. The Zilani Empire ceased to exist as a military power, but the Zilani people survived. Under human protection, they rebuilt their civilization based on different values: